Sheila told me, I know I'm supposed to forgive my husband for hurting me, but how exactly do you do it? I try, but I still feel angry and bad thoughts come into my head. How do I know I've let his offense go? I find many Christians struggle with this practical application of biblical truth. We know we want to let it go. We know we want to forgive. We're just not sure how to get there. So I want to give you a little roadmap that will help you navigate through the process of forgiving someone. First, forgiveness is a decision. It's not a feeling. It's a choice you make. You have to decide to work toward forgiving someone who's hurt you or sinned against you. Now, I find that people either forgive too quickly before doing the emotional work that they need to do in order to process and get rid of their hurt and anger, or they don't forgive at all because they've erected a large, thick wall of bitterness and resentment. Jesus does tell us to forgive one another, and that alone is a good enough reason to do it. But forgiveness is a good thing to do even for those who don't know Jesus or believe in him. Long before modern medicine studied the psychological effects or the physiological effects of chronic anger and resentment and bitterness on the body, God knew that harboring these toxic emotions would not only damage our health, but could ruin your life. And he warned you to get rid of them promptly because he knows that sin destroys you. And it's not just a sin that's committed against you that wields the fatal blow. Rather, it's your own sinful reaction to the things that have happened to you. Because unresolved anger often turns to depression or self-pity or bitterness or resentment. And these things poison your body and your soul. And you will find healing through the process of forgiveness, both receiving forgiveness and extending forgiveness. And that's why God is so insistent that we learn to forgive, because he doesn't want this sin to ruin our life. Now, please don't misunderstand what forgiveness is, because it's not excusing the offender or minimizing his or her offense. Forgiveness is simply your decision to cancel the debt that someone rightfully owes you. Now, a lot of people protest here and become stuck because they feel like they deserve justice or an apology or some restitution for the offenses that have been done to them. They don't want to cancel the debt because it feels unfair. Yet, if you wait for another person to apologize or show remorse or make amends, you may wait a very long time. In the Old Testament story, Joseph forgave his brothers for selling him into slavery, and Joseph's obedience freed him to be used by God in Egypt. But Joseph never initiated any kind of relationship or reconciliation with his brothers. He didn't expose himself to them when he first saw them again. Why? Because he didn't trust them. He was kind and gracious to them because that's who he was, and he had forgiven them. But he also tested them to see if they had changed and were different now. And once he realized they were, Joseph invited them back into relationship when they passed the test. Joseph's forgiveness and his brother's repentance were both necessary in order for reconciliation and restoration in the relationship. Now, you may never see repentance from the person who hurt you. A client of mine, Sandy, she lived stuck in her past, angry that her dad sexually abused her. And she refused to give up her anger until he admits what he did, and he's really sorry. But when she confronted him and asked him for an apology, he told her she was nuts and denied everything she accused him of doing. And that left Sandy waiting for something that's never going to happen. And she still allowed her father to continue to ruin her present and her future life because he would not do what she longed for him to do. Her anger and lack of forgiveness wasn't hurting Sandy's father. He lived selfishly like he always did. It was Sandy that was hurt by her angry and bitter spirit. Forgiving her father finally released Sandy from her own toxic emotions. Her father will still have to give an account for what he did to Sandy. Only it'll be to God, not Sandy, who judges him. In my own life, forgiveness usually comes in steps and cycles. It's not a one-time, over and done with event. So first I decide to forgive, exercising my will. Then I begin the process of letting go, releasing the anger, the hurt, and even my desire to retaliate. And I appeal to God for justice, and I turn the situation over to him, and I ask him to help me see my offender and even myself differently. And this can be really helpful because when God shows me my own sinful nature, the things I'm capable of doing, I have some genuine compassion on my offender because but for God's grace, I may have done the same thing he or she did. I no longer want to see my offender only as a bad person who did something wrong, but also as someone who's done some things right. I no longer want to see him or her just as a victimizer, but as a person with weaknesses of character and a sinful heart, just like me. And then when my hurtful memories start to surface or I'm tempted to dwell on the wrong things that this person did to me, I just continue this process and keep at it until the negative emotions and the negative thoughts are no longer in the front of my mind. They're fading and moving to the past right where they belong. So to practice forgiveness, walk regularly through these 4 steps. Decide, begin, continue, and keep at it. And as you do this, you will change because you will no longer be defining yourself by what happened to you, but instead you're going to be seeing yourself by what God is doing in you. And healing becomes a powerful conduit for God's love and grace to flow to others. And you can honestly come to say what Satan meant for evil, God is using for good in your life. God bless.